here's my perspective on things on this is, um,
Are we going live? Oh,
well, so here's the thing. What I do is I
I
like
think
to
you hit
go
the live
ahead
button.
and have us all have a little fun where, we talk about things in life in general because it loosens people up. Because the second people they know they're live,
You
like
know
you
you
just
hit the
did,
button,
they
right?
wave. Like you don't need to wave. Like you're gonna be on eventually. So if that little red light's on, who cares, right? Like, and I know me, I'm like a dork.
I
I
like
like
the wave.
I like wave to everyone as well. But anyway, okay, Mike, are you ready for the
Well,
Mike is
we're
listening?
live now anyway, so it doesn't
Are
matter.
you ready? We're gonna do this then. Okay, here we go. Welcome
We
to the clown show.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is
The
listening.
mic is
The
listening.
mic
The mic
is
is
The
listening.
mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
The mic is listening.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Sia, and welcome to the Mike is Listening. I am really excited about today's guest because we've had a very interesting relationship. It's one of those things where if have you ever met someone where you click with them, and at the same time you've actually crossed that line from like, oh, a nice acquaintance to, oh my God, you're like my brother, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I think of you. And so this will be a very, I think some people might think it will be a very lively discussion, and I hope it is, and I hope it's helpful because we're going to be talking about something that I have a very big love-hate relationship, and that's social media. So LinkedIn is becoming a far more social media type of platform for business, and it is designed specifically for the context of business, how to grow your business, grow your brand, get the credibility, recognition that we're all looking for. But at the same time, it's okay to have a little personality. And I think that's why I get along very well with today's guest, Mr. Mike O'Connor. Mike, welcome to the Mike is Listening.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Sia, for such a wonderful introduction. And I am so happy to be on here today. And thank you again for saving my bacon yesterday because I was really out of it on my show. So I really appreciate you bringing that enthusiasm. And I
Oh,
hope to return the favor today a little bit.
you are too kind and too gracious. So, here's where I think people who may or may not know you, which I'm shocked if people don't know who you are, they will get to know you today. You are the founder of Service Professionals Network, which you'll see a lot of folks put SPN in their either they'll hashtag it in their posts or they put it in their name on LinkedIn profile. I've mentioned this before on the introduction, the description, but in your own words, Mr. Mike O'Connor, what is Service Professionals Network? What's SPN?
Well, first of all, I got to tell you, with the SPN thing on LinkedIn, I actually tell everybody not to put SPN in their name. I've never actually told people to do that, right? I've actually said you might not want to do that because I'm a train wreck, right? I do talk about certain things like the golden rule, treating people right. And for the most part, I try to carry myself that way, right? Like I always try to do the right thing or the next right thing. And, I make a lot of public apologies because we all have our bad days. And, I try to take accountability. But my point is, you never know what dumb stuff I'm going to say or do. So I always, encourage people, hey, man, if you want to put SB in your name, that's really cool. You're telling people that you follow the golden rule. You're telling people that you're open to networking. You're telling people that, you're friends with me, which, may or may not be a good thing, right? I'll try to live up to that standard, right? I'm not always perfect, but, I want to give that little disclaimer. So, I mean, I'm humbled every day of my life. You know what I mean? If you actually go on LinkedIn and you search, depending on how your network's set up, and we talk about how networks work and all that stuff works on LinkedIn, but a lot of people actually have SPN in their name, despite the fact that I tell them not to. So like, I don't know, man. I'm humbled and I try to live up to that every day. What we actually are, Service Professionals Network, actually comes from me being a little bit obtuse. Are you familiar with ServPro, the water restoration company?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, I love their commercials. Yeah.
Like it never even happened, right? My brother's gonna hate me because he runs Second Chance Water Restoration in Chicago, and he's actually one of my sponsors now on the website, of course. Because if he wasn't, he would be a bad brother, and he's a good brother. But anyway, when 2015, I was just getting involved with this orphanage in Guinea. I was raising money for this nonprofit, and the only page that was beating me on Google was a LinkedIn page for this water restoration company, ServPro, and another Chicago water restoration company. So two LinkedIn pages were beating me on a search term in Google I really wanted. So that's why I got on LinkedIn. I went to the LinkedIn company page and I looked at the chief marketing officer, and that guy had Lion and ONA in his name, right? And Lion, and for those that don't know, everyone's seen Lion now. ONA kind of disappeared, right? But Lion stands for Leading International Open Networker, which means that like I'll accept your friend request, but I'm probably going to sell you some stuff or send you some spam mail, right? So I figured, well, I got to figure out how this LinkedIn works to rank better than this water restoration company. And then I started thinking about ServPro, competing with them on different terms. I'm like service professionals. I'm like kind of rhyme, fits the LinkedIn thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started. Somebody at the time was doing a group called Connect Suggestions, and they had 8 different branches where it was all like different, like car salesmen, attracting car salesmen, home salesmen, attracting realtors, right? And they wanted me to be a part of this because I went from 0 to 1,600 connections in the first 90 days I was on LinkedIn, right?
Wow.
And so these people are like, this guy's the next networking superstar. We do a branch. And I was like, hey, I don't want to do one that's sales related. I want to focus on the golden rule because everyone else is focusing on sales. And I think there needs to be a little bit of balance on that. Not only that, but at the time I wasn't really not trying to sell water restoration repair on LinkedIn. I mean, it's an emergency service, but I was trying to raise money for this nonprofit at the time, and we actually did really good. We raised almost $700,000 over 3 years.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome.
Networking on LinkedIn. Let me tell you, nobody cares about the kids in Guinea. Nobody wanted to do it, so I had to be like just ruthless and reckless abandon with my posting and how I went about like kind of painting people in the corner. Because like if you want to get spotlighted, on my post, or if you want me to tag you, donate, because that's who I'm tagging, is the people that donate. And the next thing you know, everyone's donating a few bucks here and there, and we raised a couple $100,000. Now, after my divorce and other life things, right, I'm not involved with that nonprofit. I decided to build my own social media channel, serviceprofessionalsnetwork.com, and that just all grew from networking on LinkedIn.
I love that because literally you started from the bottom, right?
the very bottom.
And now
poop.
And now we're here. And by the way, that I did grab that title from a Drake song. So anyone, if you do know that Drake song, go ahead and listen to it. Maybe you might turn the speakers down if you're at work, because it does drop some naughty words in it. But I liked your story when you were telling me about this. For me, it's quite ballsy to create SPN because there is already a platform. There's a LinkedIn already, right? There's other social media platforms. And for you to come up with Service Professionals Network, it's your take on how do we actually put the social in business social media, right?
Well,
because LinkedIn, I think, is still great platform. I mean, we're on it, right? We're here. It's successful, right? But I think there are other ways to go about it where I think it could help your business and help your network. So am I wrong here in thinking that, that's what SPN's purpose is to be a better, brighter, more human LinkedIn?
Well, here's the thing, right? And I don't want to sound any more pretentious than I naturally am. So I'm.
Oh, but you are. So we know this, right? Like
well,
everyone knows what you are.
I'm going to shoot it to everybody straight here. And I know a lot of people are going to be watching. Like, this guy's a total idiot because he's giving these people advice he probably shouldn't be giving them. Because the first thing I'm going to tell everybody here is that you should probably compete with me, right? You should make your own community-based websites or your own email type-based websites. And the reason being is because, look, you got Alignable, you got BB, you can literally name hundreds of thousands of websites that are built with the same stuff that I'm using, right? In a couple of years from now, everybody's going to have a community-based website, just like how everybody's trying to get a podcast now, right? Am I a little bit ahead of the curve? Yeah, sure, but not really, right? Like, I'm behind because there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's all the big sites, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what most people don't really think about is, like, if you have WordPress or if you have some of these other, website platforms, right? Like, everybody and their mother has the same tools that I have, to build their own community-based website. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and tell people I'm reinventing the wheel or I'm doing something that's totally outrageous. Now, granted, I'm taking all the tools everybody else has, and I feel like I'm building, instead of just a regular kit car, I'm building like a real speedster, and I want to go around the racetrack and compete with the big boys. Like, I want to push them out of the way. I'm not going to tell people I'm not going to try to compete. But at the same time, I don't want to be like acting like I'm the Wizard of Oz standing behind the curtain and nobody else can do what I'm doing, right?
Well,
Like,
but let's take that, like, let's stop there for a second and realize we do have the same tools, and that's what innovation is all about, right? So I'm a huge, and I hate the word innovation because it's overused at times and people market it like, oh, I'm innovative, but truly, I love the creativity. I love the way that I think the community that you're cultivating and the different types of industries. I mean, there's a good solid crew that we're on a daily chat with where I can barely keep up with all of you guys, but there's a genuineness about the desire for the success of SPN. And I think that
I
is
think
a
it's awesome.
huge differentiator than these other platforms. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm tired of all these different platforms. So,
well, I feel real special too.
you
know,
should, damn it, because I don't go to Alignable. I get their emails all the time saying, well, so and so wants to join your community. I'm like, what community? I don't want to be part of this community. I don't give a crap, right?
Well,
So
every website, right? Whether it's Alignable, I don't want to bash on these guys. Maybe I shouldn't burn them because a lot of people have been telling me a lot about how they don't like that site for that particular reason, right? But they also bring value. But it's also up to the users and how they use it. Like a lot of people ask me, like, what are you trying to build with SPN? Is it trying to be the next LinkedIn? Is it trying to be the next Yelp? Is it trying to be the next Facebook? Really, what I'm trying to do is to grab all the features that I enjoy as a digital marketing guy, right? And putting them together in a spot to where if I feel like using them for myself, I can use them really easily. And then I want all my friends to figure out what they want to use and use it in a way that benefits them. Right. So that's why I have the groups. That's why I have the images. It's why I have the blog section. Some days I feel like writing a blog. And then sometimes I don't write blogs for 4 months. You know what I mean? So it really, people ask me, what is SPN about? Right. And what I really do, okay, is I redistribute the stuff that people post on that website to other areas. Like I use blogger.com, I use Medium, I use Pinterest, Twitter. Like I'm kind of can I say floozy? I'm a social media floozy. I like to get around, right? And if people,
you're like a rash that just kind of like spreads,
yeah,
you itch it and you activate the histamines and then just kind of spreads out, like a hive.
I don't want to say virus or rash on the internet because people are going to be like, you're out of context.
Hey, did you not want to go viral?
Well, I guess I do.
I
guess you got me there.
Exactly. You know about data collection, SEO, and all that. I mean, you're kind of, and that's where I'm wondering too with social media. Like, we were talking about this. Were we talking about this yesterday, or was it another conversation? I talked to so many people, or you and I were offline chatting it up. But it's almost like to get viral. Do you agree or disagree that you have to have some kind of like controversial like buzzword to get the eyeballs? So you know how you see like YouTube of like or the clickbait articles like that I'm always a victim of because I'm curious and I want to see what it is, right? Like those outrageous word statements of like someone blown away or not blown away. That's not, I didn't mean blown away, but you know what I mean, like someone that outraged. And do you think you need that? And do you think LinkedIn's going to fall into that other social media platforms have kind of succumbed to?
LinkedIn does a really good job of deleting people, but a lot of times, LinkedIn isn't as clean as people think, right? Because I get a lot of spammers and people that sign up for my site, and then they'll put their LinkedIn link on there, and it'll make me feel good because I'm like, oh, they're already on LinkedIn. And they got like 1,000 followers, and this guy's like clearly a spam artist. So, I mean, no matter what site you're on, you're going to have the spammers and the people. They're the same everywhere. Look at Twitter, Facebook, I mean, they all have their spam, like even Instagram, they just had to change their reels, right? So that way they can click the likes and it shows up in their feed because everyone was getting the spam in their inbox every time they did the reels, right? So like the whole nature of social media is always evolving because you have that conflict between the people that run the sites and the people that want to use them and then the people that just want to spam everybody. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I mean, love it.
What's that? Good intentions or whatever, whatever you intend it to be, there's always gonna be one person that's gonna bastardize the usage of it, right?
Jacob Warren, right? The guy who's redoing my website. Like I took a whole bunch just to kind of put it out there for people, right? I took all the tools you can use as a novice and I read a couple, blogs and I watched a couple like how to build a social media website, on YouTube videos. And literally after my divorce, like I was told I was going to be like a big fat broke loser by a few different people, right, for the rest of my life. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to show you. So I went and Googled what does www dot mean. And then I was like, oh, I got to go back and like figure out what HTTPS means. And that's literally where I started like 6 years ago. And then, so I built this social media site and it was doing really well. We had a high ranking. We were getting a lot of organic traffic. And then I'm like, oh, let's put this business directory on it. And that screwed everything up. So then I got to a point to where I could actually hire a team, Jacob Warren Research. And the reason why I'm bringing him up is because he has the greatest line ever, right? Which is marketers ruin everything. And it's true. We do. I mean, I mean, I do it. I can't say that I don't break the rules and I don't use automation when I shouldn't. You know what I mean? Because
But I mean, again, like, just because you're supposed to do something or not do something doesn't mean you don't try either, right? Like I said, you're pushing the envelope of what, the existing tools that you have and being innovative on how you can reapply it, right? And I think that's really cool. So talk to me about this, because I feel like, again, I'm trying to stick with our theme here, start from the bottom, and now we're here. I mean, I love the fact that you're completely authentic to who you are and you admit when things aren't going well. And so when I first went on SPN, I was like, "Oh, this is a little slow. I like the idea of it, but it's
it's
a
getting
little
better.
slow." So talk to me about this, because I want people to understand, and I encouraged you, right? Because I said, "Look, master one section before you do it all." And I think you've done what many people have done, which is, "Oh, I can do this. Oh, and I can do that. And oh, let's do this." And what happened when you started adding on all those different add-ons? What happened to your site?
Well, it slowed down a lot, right? And I learned a lot of lessons, right? And sometimes you got to take a step back to take a step forward, right?
Right.
And not to sound too self-absorbed, but what I'm really proud of most is I never gave up, right? And I think that is what stops most people, is they realize how much work there is and
Yes.
how much stuff hits the fan all at one time on a daily basis. Like when I wake up in the morning, right, as soon as my toe hits the floor, I know I'm dealing with X amount of headaches. And I know that if I stop for any amount of time, I'm going to have 8 notifications an hour. So if I'm on your podcast, right, I got to either catch up with those or be okay with making some people angry because I didn't respond to their message. You know what I mean? And
Right.
here's the thing. You're always going to have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, right? And no matter how you make your omelet, somebody's going to complain if you serve it to them. No matter how hungry they are, they'll tell you that you didn't make a very good omelet, right? But now if you eat your omelet, you're still getting the protein, you're still getting all the nutrients and the love that you put into that, right? No matter how many people complain. And sometimes you just got to eat your own damn omelet and let people go hungry if that's what they want. You still made the food, you offered it to them. If they don't want it, if they don't like it, that's on them. And I think that's where most people stop, is they start putting the eggs in, they start putting the cheese in, or the vegan stuff, whatever they're into, right? And people start saying, hey, that's not how you cook it, or add salt, because everybody's going to tell you what you're doing wrong every step of the way, right? And that's
It
why,
is, yeah.
I mean, everybody's a critic, right? And sometimes
Right.
people are, what I call toxic positive, right? They're, they give you that positive, toxic positivity where nothing you do is wrong, which is, I think, I'd rather have the critic.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Oh, the ones that are like, "Oh, you're so awesome." And you're like, "No, I literally was down for 20 minutes. That is not awesome." Like, you know what I wonder? That toxic positivity, let's talk about that. Because I feel like sometimes in these communities, everyone's like, "Oh, I just want to be on my best behavior and I want to, like your comments or share whatever, or comment, on your posts and whatnot, and everything's roses." What are you doing to cultivate a real interaction and not that, what you say, toxic positivity? Because no one wants to be thought of as mean.
Well, here's the thing. Some people will avoid, negativity at all cost, and they grow. There's a lot of people that have millions of followers and they make great livings, but you can't get the real from them, right? And here's the thing. I'm going to get the real to you no matter what. And there's a difference. And everybody crafts their own story, builds their own tribe, right? And I know what I like and I know what's for sale, right? My integrity is not for sale. Whether you love me or hate me, you know you're going to get the truth, right?
Right.
And people can go back on LinkedIn. The greatest thing about LinkedIn is you can always go back far enough if you want to. You can go back through activity feeds and see this, right? A couple of years ago, my buddy, 2016 actually, I was one of the bigger guys then. Now everybody's got millions of followers and passed me up because I took so much time working on my own stuff off of LinkedIn. So I was been kind of cruise control. But 2016, right? My buddy calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, I get what you're saying now." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You're an internet celebrity." I'm like, "No, dude, I'm far from an internet celebrity, but why do you say this?" He's like, "Well, my cousin, Rob, sent me this text message, 2 of them, and it convinced me that you're big time." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Let me show you." Now, my buddy, honestly, at the time, didn't know what the @ symbol was. He never sent an email in his life. He was just one of those guys. He just never got on social media, never sent emails, right? So he sends me two messages, and they were pictures. And one of them was like Hillary Clinton Chelsea Clinton, the daughter, made a post on LinkedIn, and it was like Hillary Clinton, Michael Connor, famous Democrat, famous Democrat, famous Democrat, right? And then Donald Trump Jr. made a post, and it was Donald Trump, Michael Connor, famous Republican, famous Republican, famous Republican. And my buddy's like, how'd this happen? Right.
Yeah.
Well, at the time I was posting daily, okay, about political topics, and all these guys are running for president, right? And I was talking about the topics, but I wasn't really trying to give my opinion either way. I was trying not to let people know what side of the coin I was on, right? I'm just talking about principles and the golden rule, right?
Right.
And this was a big aha like time in my life. It's like stuff started clicking together, and I started realizing that people are people no matter what scale they're on, whether they're running for president or they're like, four followers, right? We're
Right.
all rats chasing cheese. We're just chasing different types of cheese in different size amounts, right?
Right.
But here I am being a horse's ass every day about what's right, what's wrong, doing my virtual signaling. I was on my soapbox every day about just be good to people. I was preaching all the time because I was raising money at the time for the orphanage, and that's just what I was doing 24 hours a day, right?
Right.
So basically both sides wanted to claim me because I'm the guy who's speaking the truth and following the golden rule.
Right.
So if I endorse either side, they look better on LinkedIn, which I thought was hilarious. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, what that means to me though is that if you can get people that get out of their quote, well, if they're in their tribal mentality and
Yeah.
that you can get both sides to claim you, that means to me, you have a message that resonates, that's universal. And I think that's like the trick around social media, right? Because, we've had this discussion before and like, again, to clarify, like I produce podcasts. I do social media because I have to, but not because I want to. I'm not like my sense of humor is
Why we get
probably
along.
not appropriate more often than not, right? But I do believe that there's quality in the following, meaning like you can have 1 million followers, and I get that. Like the more visibility you have, the more FOMO you get out there, and the more people are going to want
Yeah.
to say, "Hey, I want to see, I want to see what Mike is all about. I want to see what C is all about." But I guess maybe it's more my personality. It's like I'll be friendly and cordial to a lot of people, but I only like a smaller group of friends because I know they're going to actually do something for me, right? And then I think that's where the gist of I think for LinkedIn specifically, because it's business oriented, help me understand your philosophy on the followers philosophy, because I think, you and I have already been in a lively conversation on it. And, again, social media versus podcast following, I want to differentiate the two. But what is your philosophy on, the concept of
Well,
followers?
whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, any of those big platforms, right? Followers are important if you're trying to get your message out there, whether you're trying to raise money for an orphanage or you're trying to sell shoes or you're trying to get people to watch your podcasts, right? Obviously, the more people following you, the better, right? Some people even buy followers, which can get you in a lot of trouble, especially if you're a journalist, which a few journalists have had their hands caught in that cookie jar, right? And like you said earlier, it's the fear of missing out. That's why people buy followers. A lot of people buy followers because they want a peacock, right?
Right.
And I'm not the nerd that Jacob Warren is. I mean, that's why they're rebuilding my website. Basically, I made 2 gigantic piles of needles that this guy now has to separate. So I know just enough to break stuff, right? But what I do know is that if you buy followers or if you're, getting a whole bunch of fake engagement, which I do sometimes, because like a lot of people will engage on your stuff just because they like you. It doesn't mean they actually, read your blog or watch your video, right?
Yeah.
But like if somebody's like, "Oh, Mike, that's a really great blog," well, I'm not responsible for them not reading and saying it's a good blog. They just did that on their own, right? But
Right.
it's still fake engagement. You know what I mean? But like when you're buying fake followers, what most people don't realize, you're actually hurting yourself because those followers aren't going to engage. So it's going to hurt your algorithm, and everything's based off ratio. And it doesn't really matter what platform you're on.
Say that one more time. So the more followers you have, if they don't engage with you, you actually get hurt by it because now your ratio is smaller.
In some ways.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, see, here's the thing, right? Whether it's internet or life, right? You can always be glass is half full, glass is half empty, right?
Okay.
And no matter what I say here, somebody's going to say I'm an idiot, right? And no matter what I say, somebody's going to say I'm positive. And the reality is they're both kind of right because there's always a different way to do things. You know what I mean? And I have my good moments and bad moments, right?
Are you trying to say that there's like it's not just black and white, there's gray and there's a lot of nuances
Most of it
when
is.
playing
That's
the
what I
social
love.
media game?
that's what I love about the internet, right? You can be that
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. You know what I mean? And you can, everybody can make their own little yellow brick road and be whatever they want to be on the internet, right? But see, that's the thing. You can have fun and you can play with automation, but you got to realize there's a lot of people doing the same thing, right? Like somebody invited me in this chat the other day. I'm like, hey, Mike, I really like this person. Can you go ahead and endorse them? I really like what they're doing. So I
Right.
called that person up on the phone, like immediately. I'm like, dude, you just put me in a chat with 12 people with this person, right? I'm like, do you even talk to him? I talked to him for a couple minutes on the phone. I'm like, well, tell me about that conversation. So he tells me word for word the conversation, right? I'm like, well, first of all, like, I gotta let you know that like that person is catfishing you and they're searching you for information, right? And not only that, but you just invited him into a group with me and 12 other. And if I know it, at least 4 or 5 other people in that group know. Like that person didn't even have a real name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
No. Yeah.
a lot of people, right? And due diligence is key. Okay. I
Right.
think that's if I give anybody any advice here that's worth taking home, that's the biggest thing is do your due diligence, right? On the internet, you can check Google reviews, you can look at Ahrefs, you can look at SEMrush, you can see the domain authority, right? Like, and certain platforms carry different weight. Like if you have 30,000 followers on Instagram and then I look and you got no likes or comments on your photos, you bottom. I'm not impressed, right?
Right.
If you have 30,000 followers on Instagram, right? And it's all like, bot comments, it's just like, one logo after the next, on their faces, right? I'm not impressed. But now if you're putting out fiery content that's really awesome, and I'm like, wow, that's really awesome content. And then so you got 30,000 followers and 800 likes. Now I'm starting to get kind of impressed because like those are real people and commenting and engaging, right?
Right.
And a lot of people, they just see the peacock, right? They just see the feathers, but they never look back to see like how much meat's actually on the bird, right?
That is so critical. Thank you for saying that.
You know what I mean? Like, well, I mean, like, are you just looking at the feathers or is there some meat on this turkey? You know what I mean? Because like if I'm going to skin the thing and pluck the feathers, I want to eat, and like if you can't show me how to really eat, because you spent $10 on Fiverr or whatever, or you're really helping me, and here's the thing, and I don't want to bash LinkedIn because LinkedIn's great. It's like, besides Service Professionals Network,
It's my primary platform. So yeah, I mean,
I
obviously,
have no problem with that. I hope to compete with that someday in some ways, but right, LinkedIn is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And I have almost 46,000 followers. Okay, so it may not behoove me to say this, right? But I think anybody can get 30,000 connections or followers on LinkedIn easier than they can everywhere else. And that's part of the reason why and I'm going to say this, and a lot of people ask me all the time. So, people ask me, why do they have a 30,000 cap, right? And I never really tell that. So I'm going to tell them here, right? There's many reasons why I think they have a 30,000 cap on LinkedIn. One of which is they want their people and they want, the people that they're friendly with to do better. They want them to always have that advantage, right? And they want to keep certain people down. And if you got like a whole bunch of mass amount of followers, you're going to dominate the feeds. So when Oleg first got big and he had 1 million followers and he's doing the articles, right? Everybody's sharing his content all the time. Even if you weren't following the guy, you see his content every third post because he was doing 12 articles a day and everybody's sharing his 12 articles because they're being sycophants. So they didn't want to get Oleg's attention, right?
Right.
So that's why they start limiting everybody, is because they don't want certain people to dominate the feeds and they have to scale it back because the marketers ruin everything.
Okay. So that makes sense. Cause I actually complained about the other day because I was like, dude, like, wouldn't LinkedIn want people to post, like, get their content in there to gravitate people to LinkedIn and away from these other platforms? You're saying no, because marketers, or there's always going to be a spoiled apple that's going to ruin the bunch, where they said, look, we can't have people spamming the site either. So,
well, think about it from a business perspective, right? Like, let's say you own LinkedIn. What's your number one job? Is to keep people on LinkedIn, right?
Right.
To get them to buy the jobs, placement, to buy the ads.
Well, that was the initial.
So it's all about dwell time, right? They want people to stay on LinkedIn. Whether they admit it or not, they're direct competition with Facebook. It's the same people on both platforms, and there's only so much time in the day, right?
Right.
And LinkedIn wants you to spend 24 hours a day on LinkedIn, just like I want you to spend 24 hours a day on serviceprofessionalsnetwork.com, right? And people aren't going to do that if all they see is the same person over and over and over again, right?
I mean, I get that, but if they're providing valuable content,
they're dangling the carrot.
I mean, it just seems like to me, like, there are organizations that like have some value and they're like limited to X amount of posts a day. Otherwise they'll get hurt in the algorithms, etc. Like I see what you're saying and I
You
understand
know why
that they don't
LinkedIn
want
does
to
that, right?
Instagramify LinkedIn, right? Like how can we avoid the Instagramification of LinkedIn? Because I see a lot of posts
I say
of
bring it on.
individuals that are like, you know,
I
I
say
think
bring it on. Look,
you say
why are
bring it
you
on.
Yeah, why are
Okay.
you going on the internet? Why are you doing
No,
social media? You just said you don't like social media. Why are you doing it?
well, just because I'm social. but
Well, because you
but
have a need
it's
too, right? Like you make your money attracting people that want to do podcasting to your service, right? So if
right.
you're out there, the proof is in the pudding. Like, hey, look how fire my podcast is. Look at all the awesome guests I'm doing. Look at the cool promo I had. By the way, I love the intro. I totally got to up my intro game. I got to have you talk to you. I got to talk to you about intro. Anyway, my point is, right? You're on here because you got something you need to do, right? You got goals you want to accomplish, right?
Right.
And LinkedIn does a really good job of knowing who they are, right? They got 800 million people on their site. 80 million are active. So last 30 days. So that right there tells you most of them aren't active, right? So what LinkedIn's trying to do is to dangle that carrot at all times. So even if you put out fire content and you don't get the likes or the comments or engagement that you want to get, right?
Mhm.
You still know there's 800 million people. That's why you're not going to go look. My site gets 30,000, 100,000 clicks on a good day, right? As an individual users, there's less people using my website, right?
Right.
So views are views. It doesn't matter where they come from, doesn't matter where they're at, right? So if you put on fire content on my website and you get 10,000 views that day, and you put the same fire content on LinkedIn and you get 5,000 views because there's more competition, which one did you better? You get my point?
Right, I
So
hear you.
what I'm saying is, if people want Instagram on LinkedIn, they're going to push for that. If they want Instagram on Facebook, they're going to push for that. If they want to come to my website and post nothing but Instagram stuff, that's cool with me. That's why that's there. If people want to come to my website and post blogs all day, that's cool. That's why it's there. If they just want to post really dirty memes because nobody else will let them do it, they can do that too. That's why it's there, right? Because we all want the same thing, whether it's Sia with her podcast or it's the guy that owns LinkedIn, right? We're all rats chasing the cheese. We all have goals that we want to accomplish. That's why we're all on social media. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. So, like I said, is earlier, like, the fact that SPN is a site where you can be much more human. All the foibles, all of our quirks, our personalities really can come through. I feel like LinkedIn, to some degree, you have to be,
well,
authentically inauthentic, right? Because we all have to put our best face forward. It is Mark Bowden, by the way, I'll have him as a guest in the future. If you guys follow body language, he did this TEDx talk back in 2013 talking about being inauthentic. And he had a point, which I think is hilarious. And I'll talk to him about it as
oh my
well, which
gosh.
is, oh yeah, because we all talk about being yourself, be your authentic self. And by the way, everyone, I apologize. I am trying like the Dickens to keep up on the comments, and I'm for some odd reason it's not showing up on my StreamYard linked flow here. So I'm kind of like trying to grab it over my phone. So there's a lot of folks talking, and I'm just like missing a lot of the stuff here, Mike. But
That's all right.
anyway, so everyone,
Sorry,
shout
guys.
out to everyone that's on, and thank you for posting and commenting. Sorry, I can't really comment. I'm trying to, and it just my phone is freezing up as well. So at any rate, which is we talk about authenticity. I think you should be yourself, but he had a point which I thought was excellent, which was this. Sometimes you do have to put your best foot forward, but not in a way that's fake. And that's a very fine line, right?
I don't know how. I mean, honestly, like, I'll be real with you. I wish I could be fake. I wish I could be that guy.
I know, me too. Me too.
I
Me
wish
too.
I could. I just sometimes I'm like, man, don't say it. Don't tell this guy he's full of crap. Like just don't do it, Mike. Like, because there's a cost. Like, it's kind of what Oakland was saying yesterday about the Ori when I read his book, right? That's like the one thing I brought up. You see his face light up too. And like, because he got to talk about that moment he did the right thing, right?
Right.
And like I do the right thing because I don't want to regret it later. But always in the moment, I'm like, oh man, what are you doing? Like, don't do this. It's going to hurt. And I think a lot of people kind of give into that because they know it's going to hurt to kind of look. If you tell somebody that's got 60,000 followers, like today was a miss, right? They get butthurt most of the time. If you say, hey, Mike, that content wasn't that great yesterday, you kind of rubbed me the wrong way, I'm gonna be like, God damn, see it, I appreciate you telling me that because it's honest feedback, right?
Well, and that's fine. That's fine.
Well,
I think it's, but I right there with what you were saying though is this: It's tact. You
It
could
is.
be yourself and you could have a bad day and still put on like a, hey, I'm going to be tactful about something. Or you can simply because that's a reflection of your personality. You and I are very similar in that context. Is we're probably more similar than we both want to admit, but that's okay. It's cool. We'll be happy in our quirky own ways, which is we don't have the energy to put on that fake smile. And I'm not saying when I say what Mark was talking about is inauthentic, is putting on a fake smile. He's not saying that at all. What he's saying is sometimes you're just in a situation where you're just like his example. And I don't want to run his TED talk. It's so good. Everyone should go check it out. 2013, Mark Bowden, TEDx talk, body
We'll
language.
totally watch.
Authentic. It's really good. It's such a good talk. But he did say, look, right before this keynote that he did on that TED talk, he was on another keynote, and he followed the that oh gosh, what's his name? Canadian astronaut, the really cool guy that's up there, and he does broadcasts. Anyway, he's a freaking hero in Canada, right? And he goes, yeah, I followed that guy. He's like, I'm telling you right now, if I were my true authentic self, you wouldn't like me because my body language wouldn't reflect that well. And it was really funny because I just like, you know what? It's true. Like, you know, he wasn't feeling lovely, right? Loved after, you know, following that person. But I mean, and that's where I think sometimes when we talk about authenticity and people are like, oh, you're so real and blah, blah, blah. I worry sometimes that you and I are very comfortable in ourselves, right? We're so comfortable that we'll take the criticism. We'll take the, wow, you were kind of a, you know, whatever feedback that might be, right? But I worry when I see other people seeing people like us who are direct that they think, oh, I need to be direct in order to be my authentic self. And that's not necessarily true. And I think that's where I get nervous
That's a
sometimes.
great
Like, I
point.
think there's certain personalities that just don't, that's not you. So don't try to be that either. And there's this other thing, this other advice I saw
That's such
this
a great
woman give
point.
is she said, or they said, I'll say they said, not a she,
It
they
was
said,
definitely they.
you could cry and say, I don't know what I'm doing in a career, like whatever. And people will gravitate towards you because, you know, they'll support you. And I'm thinking, you know what? To some degree, tying an emotion absolutely works. But here's the thing, right? I think it's a miss. And I think people should tread lightly on this, is crying, talking about a vulnerability, which I think is fair. It's just, I don't know.
You
I think
can't
I
go to
said it
that well
earlier.
every day.
I said it with Red last week. You know, don't tell people that you've got gangrene of the toe. Like, no one cares. Like, no one cares that far. We're not American Idol preview story, sob story. You know what I mean? It's like, be
Don't get me
authentic.
started. Don't get like okay. I'm not gonna mention names. You know, we'll call him Barry. His name wasn't Barry. Sound like Barry, but we're not gonna call him. We'll say Barry, right? This guy Barry. We won't say Chicago. We'll say Washington. So this guy Barry in Washington, right? So Barry in Washington for like 3 months straight, every Wednesday, right? This guy was a hero because he was always talking about the 80-year-old lady. Do they have a Gold Coast in Washington? Whatever the Gold Coast is in Washington, not Chicago. So Barry in Washington on the Bold Coast and not the Gold Coast. Okay. Every Wednesday or Tuesday for like 3 months straight, this hero, even in springtime, was helping old ladies in wheelchairs, pushing them down the road through 2 feet of snow. Even in May, it was great. And people like, 9,000 likes and comments. Oh, way to go, Barry. You're the hero of Washington on Bold Street, always pushing those old ladies in wheelchairs. It's like, it drives me mad because I may not be from Washington, but I joke, how many old ladies do you see in wheelchairs down in the metro area with 2 feet of snow? Like, it doesn't even make sense. You get 90,000 likes every week on it. It's just like, you got to navigate it, and you got to learn what you're going to take personal and what you're going to go, yeah, good for you, Barry.
I mean, hey, maybe it works for Barry. It doesn't necessarily have to work for you. And that's the other thing too. Like I said, is
Barry sells insurance or whatever it is, right?
Right.
Like me personally, like that guy's probably selling a lot of insurance, right?
Yeah.
But if he's lying about pushing an old lady down the street in June because of the snow, right? Like, you're gonna trust that guy with your insurance or whatever it is. I mean, like, I'm gonna take the next elevator. You know what I mean? Like, we're good, Barry. Have a good one, buddy. Like, I'm gonna have my hand in my wallet.
You know what? Like I said, I say this to everyone. There's a lock for every key, right?
Yeah.
And Barry might grab there are folks that's going to gravitate towards Barry,
I thought
and there's
about
others that are just simply not. And I think, and I'm like twitching right now. I'm like,
gives you hives.
yeah, well, my nose is really itchy. Well, it's been really windy here in Dallas, and so like I think my allergies are starting to kick in. So don't worry, everyone. I've got my handy sanitizer, so I've been wiping my face a lot. But I will just for public service. Here you go, wipe your hands.
Well,
But
I kind of like that Barry takes some of those people away from me. You know what I mean? Because
because not like I said, not everyone's
there's an
perfect for
audience for
everybody, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then that's okay. And I think that's the other thing with like, social media platforms. And as you've been very candid, Mike, is look, you're not for everyone. I'm not for everyone. My SPN may not be for everyone, or maybe there's segments of SPN that might work for you.
It's
And
for all
it's
the
not
smart people.
black. It's not black and white, right? You
Yeah.
have the ability to decide what's going to work for you. Use that portion of it, leverage it, and move on. I think.
What's funny? I heard a few people tell me, right? And people like to send me screenshots of other professionals bad mouthing SPN. And it's like their favorite thing is hey, all these people hate you, right? But a lot of people will say stuff like, I don't think it's my audience because of the memes, or I don't think it's my audience because of the blogs. I don't think it's my audience because of this, right?
Right.
And what people don't realize is that stuff may be more prevalent on my site because that's just happened what you see because there's not 800 million people swamping it out, right? But that's the same stuff on Facebook. It's the same stuff on Instagram. It's the same stuff on Twitter. I mean, Twitter and Tumblr, some of the stuff I see on there is really bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my point is, your audience is the internet, right? Like,
right.
The audience is the same everywhere. It doesn't matter where it is, right? So if I'm producing views and those people aren't your audience, well, I hate to say this, but you're an idiot.
Well, okay, first off, be nice, young man. Okay, no one's an idiot. But I think it's education, right? Like,
I mean, I don't mean to be obtuse about it, but it is what it is.
You can be tactful, young man.
I try to be.
You can be tactful about it, but that is true. If anything that's a painful like life lesson is like the Gen Zs and even like younger millennials are finding out very quickly. And now us older folks, right? Like you're like a older millennial,
a boomer,
right?
If that's what you're getting into.
Oh, stop with the boomer action.
Somebody called me a boomer yesterday.
No, but
on my cage fighter side.
Well, what I was gonna say is I think we're finding out very quickly right now with this, societal swing that's going on right now is whatever you post on the internet is permanent. And thank goodness when I was in my 20s, the internet wasn't, as pervasive, but we still have to have that same life lesson that these kids who are digitally native are probably a little bit more savvy than us to say, yeah, you can't post certain things on the internet, or if it is, understand it's going to be part of your branding, part of who you are, and you better be able to explain it. Explain it. That's all it is. You're going to do it.
Ageism there. Right?
I'm not supporting ageism. I'm
you
simply
just said all those kids are probably you're true though, right? But that's the thing is a lot of these older folks nowadays people act like they don't know what's going on, right? I have some grandmas that show me some stuff online all the time. I'm just saying it happens,
I'm not saying that they're not savvy. I'm saying though that when
I'm just
posting things,
chops, right? I did that just to be obtuse.
No,
I'm mad because I don't have.
I'm telling you right now. There are people though that will there are older people that will as long as you can defend it. That's all I'm saying. Like cuz here's what's happening. Everyone's going back 10, 15 years back of posts and then saying and looking at things from modern eyes and like Joe Rogan, right? Like whether you like him, love him, hate
horrent in a lot of cases. Like there's no defending the Planet of the Apes thing at all. I mean, there just isn't, right? And here's the thing. Somebody asked me, like, what would I think about some of that stuff being said on my platform? Or look, I want to know the real people and what they really got to say. Right. Like, like.
I like it. If you're going to be obtuse, as you say, Mike, I'd rather know it now than, but you can be tactful. That's all I'm saying. You can be obtuse, but there's tact around it. That
I don't want anybody to be racist. I don't want anyone to be a prejudiced jerk. Right. But like, I'd rather have you be open about it than wearing a hood in my backyard.
That's true.
I mean? Like, look, it's going back to the fake name thing, right? Like, I say a lot of dumb things. I do a lot of dumb things.
I think you say a lot of provocative things. I wouldn't call it dumb.
Well, I mean, I'm not afraid of the subject, right? Like, I'll say what's on my mind, right? But I think there's a lot of like value in being able to say like I'm proud of who I am. Like you can Google me, right? You can Google my criminal record, right? And you can, I have a record of making public apologies when I'm wrong, and I've made way too many of them because I'm always wrong about certain things. But my point is, like, and like going back earlier, right? Every single one of us trains people how to behave all the time, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of us react to that training we get more so than everybody else, right? So if you have an influencer that gets really mad at the littlest things all the time, right? And they treat everybody the same, like you're the same person that just bugged me. So now I'm going to be, rude to you or short with you, right? That person's training people that, hey, don't bug them. They're short, right?
Right.
Then if somebody comes and comments and engage, they come back and comment and engage, right? What that person's doing is like they're training people to like only be nice to me, only give me the positive. And that's why you get the people going around saying, hey, I only engage in the positive, because that's what gets them the cheese, right? You know what I mean? So like if I make this influencer mad, he's not going to give me the cheese anymore. And then the influencers figure this out on some of these sites and they use it against people, right? And that's why like pods have such a bad reputation, because it's like, I don't know if you know this, but I was one of the first guys that made pods on LinkedIn, and people hate me for it, and rightfully so, right? But I realized my first pod was going bad, and I'm like, I don't want nothing to do with any of these people anymore, And then I got out of it. The next thing I know, all these people are selling master courses and e-courses, and basically everything that I'm teaching them how to do, they're selling people on thousands of dollars now how to do it, right?
Right.
And you can watch out for these people. I'm not going to name names or through, but like the I create influencers crowd, right? Look, you can always look through the fingers, right? Read between the lines, right? If somebody only offers their services for a couple months at a time, that's because they can only give you superficial value for a couple months at a time. Like if me and my circle jerk friends want to come over and like your comments 100 at a time and build you up on your platform and get you up to 30,000, that smoke show is only going to last for 2 or 3 months before it's apparent to everybody. So if I only charge you for 2 months of service for $5,000 and I tell you that after 3 months, it's up to you to figure it out, now when I get that $5,000 and your engagement drives up, most people aren't going to say, hey, this guy took advantage of me for $5,000, because they know not only does that influencer, but there's like a group of influencers, they all work together. They even have a website where they're like, here's 50 influencers, right? Well, nobody wants to take them on. So if you get me for $5,000 and I go tell everybody you're a crook, right? Now none of those influencers are ever going to like or engage, and so it's fear-based, right? So a lot of people talk crap about Mike O'Connor and SPN, and they use the things against me, like the fact that I brought up Joe Rogan. I didn't say anything bad. I just talked about a popular subject, right? But
you can refer to people that might be controversial. Doesn't necessarily mean you're an evil person.
People use what they can.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait, can you go take a step back, Mike? Because I didn't even know this. And again, this is my own ignorance. And
No,
again,
it's all right.
I don't care. Like this kind of stuff, this game that this influencer, like
everything's
social media
pay to play, right? For most people.
So you can charge someone for like 3 months and say, I'm going to get you to X number, and then they
Is that
basically what they're saying?
Influencer, if you give me $5,000, I'll show you how to do it. What I'll do is I'm going to show you to go get a GIF off of Reddit or go get a GIF off of here, and then make it a popular video, steal somebody else's video and put it on LinkedIn, and you make a post and then you put it in my inbox, and then me and my other influencer friends will like it. Well, after that $5,000 is up, the influencers disappear, and then so does all your engagement. You know what I mean? And nobody says anything, because if they do, you're going to have all those influencers. And I'm the jerk that kind of created that, because I showed all those people how to network on LinkedIn in the first place. So when I go out and look, if you got 100 people in a room, right, and 99 of them are like, hey, we're going to go scam everybody, and you're the one person that stands up and says, hey, don't do that. It's really easy for those 99 people to push that one person out of the room,
right? Yeah,
and keep going on with their thing. So if you look between, like, the proof's always in the pudding.
That's crazy. That's I have no. I mean, gosh, like maybe because I'm an optimist and I just want to see the goodness in people. I don't even think
I like to see the everything. I like to see the real, right?
Yeah, but I guess I didn't
That's why
think
I
that
make a
people were
lot of enemies,
capable.
because I watch shit and I tell, pardon my language, but I tell people what I see, and I tell people what I think, and I tell people the truth behind it. Right?
Yeah. No, it's
That's,
ugly. That's ugly.
well,
It's sad. And this is what I
okay.
don't want LinkedIn to be though. But you're saying this is happening.
The truth is the truth. It's obvious. Have I ever sold an e-course? Have I ever sold you a piece of information? Have I ever sold anybody a piece of information? No.
Yeah.
If somebody asks me for something, I give them the honest advice. If
Yeah.
somebody asks me how Ahrefs work, I tell them. Somebody asks me how to do this on YouTube, I tell them, right? I don't put a price tag on it. The proof is always in the pudding, people. It is
Follow
what
the
it
money.
is, right?
Follow the money. I
So
think
if
it's always to follow the money, right?
well, people are saying follow the money, right? So you see all
Yeah.
these guys, I'll make you an influencer for $5,000, right? How many of those people have their own social media website and they can tell you how Ahrefs work? How many of them can tell you about domain authority? How many of them can tell you about SERPs? How many of them can tell you about call to action? How many of them actually have a website with 15 to 20,000 people on it? Cool, you got 1 million followers on LinkedIn, pal. That's awesome. I got 20,000 people on my own website and I get millions of clicks a month. And I tell everybody else how to do it if they want to. Because I saw this thing about Warren Buffett a few years ago. He was doing this interview. He doesn't do a lot of interviews, right? But he was doing this interview, and back behind him was a stack of newspapers about 5 feet. It came up to his chest, right? And the interviewer goes, "Hey, what's with all the newspapers? How long have you been collecting those?" And he's like, "Oh, those are just from today." And I'm paraphrasing. So, and he's like, "Well, what do you mean those are just from today?" He's like, "Yeah, those are all the newspapers from around the world that talk about all these different businesses. I read through them all every day. That's how I'm Warren Buffett. Like, anybody can grab those newspapers and read through it, but nobody does. But that's why I'm the oracle, is because I read through that information on a daily basis, right?" And, people think Warren Buffett's just some super smart guy. And he is. I'm not taking anything away from him. You know what I mean? He earned that title, but he also earns it every day, because even as old as he is today, he's still reading those newspapers. He's still doing all the things we don't want to do. I don't want to read those newspapers. So what I read is data on the internet. How does the internet work? Why do people click stuff? I almost swear again. Why do people do this? Why do people use these sizes of images? Why do people do this, right? And when I started realizing what was going on with all these influencer guys a couple years ago, I'm like, I'm going to go make SPN a website. I'm going to go make my own basket, because all these people are putting their eggs in LinkedIn's basket, right? And they're telling everybody how many eggs they got in LinkedIn's basket, and they're comparing that, right? And I was getting my ass kicked, because it's 99 people there, and I'm the guy crying wolf, and I'm trying to warn people, right? And I'm being made to look like the bad guy because they just are better at networking on LinkedIn. So I'm like, you know what? They got more eggs in this basket. So I'm going to go show those dumb clucks how to make my own basket. And I'm going to get people to put eggs in my basket. And I'm going to do it without selling myself short. I'm not going to do any, thing that damages my integrity. I'm not going to I took my lumps. I took my beatings on a daily basis. I read that stack of newspapers, as you will, right, on a daily basis, right? And now I'm kind of back to level the playing field, right? And if I can, I don't want to get in the same pissing contest. I don't want to have negativity, right? But I'm here for the real. And if somebody's going to ask me a real question, I'm going to give them a long-winded, real answer.
Being real doesn't mean being negative. It's being constructive. Now, if it's someone being real and always bashing, that's not constructive. And I think that's the real that, it reminds me of, do you remember, was it Dave Chappelle that did the skit of when so-and-so was real or being real?
Being real goes wrong.
Yeah, when being real goes wrong, right? Yeah. That's what I think I want to at least in my perspective, being real is fine, but to understand though that you got to be constructive about it. It can't be just simply being real for the sake of it. And everyone should go watch that skit because it's so damn funny to me. But
it's the same thing like I was saying earlier though about the omelet, right? No matter how you make the omelet, somebody is going to complain about the taste, right? And there's always that gray, like you were saying earlier, right?
Right.
Black and there's white. I want to get on my high horse. I want to get on the soapbox and say, don't buy those courses. They're ripping you off, right? But at the same time, I know that's going to blow up in my face more often than not. So I don't talk about it on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people want to buy into it. They want that positivity. They want to be told it's going to be all right no matter what. Even if all the red flags are going off in their head, right? We've all dated that person, right? We knew we shouldn't have dated, because they brought that one thing we really liked, and we kind of look past all those other things, right? And then later when that relationship's blowing up, you're like, why did I miss all those red flags? You know what I mean? They were there. You knew they were there, right? But you still dove right in because you saw something that was more attractive than those red flags. Right.
Okay, so we could keep talking forever. And by the way, we are way over time.
Sorry.
But Mike, I knew this would happen, so that's why I didn't even bother mentioning it. Like I was like, yeah, I'll just let this, pony ride. But you are cracking me up because while you were sitting there making your omelet analogy, the Beatles song "I Am the Walrus" started popping up in my head. I'm like, oh my god, you're the Eggman. So,
I don't know if that's a good thing.
well, I don't know either. I'm like, but now I've got the walrus in my head, and it's like
I'm gonna go
like
listen
I'm
to
bopping my head because it's like cuckoo choo.
William Bolden and the Egg Guy. I'm gonna go listen.
Hey, you are the Eggman. It's okay, but that's all good. So, I really enjoy talking to you, Mike. And like, like I said, is like I love the fact that what you're cultivating is an openness and a I think I don't want oh God, I don't want to call it safe place, but it's a place where I see people who don't necessarily agree with each other all the time, will agree, disagree, but everyone's still very respectful to each other. And I think that's the critical piece to be successful in whatever community or platform that you are establishing and developing and growing, right? So for those that want to get to know more about you, Mr. Mike, how can they get a hold of you? Or can they? Because dude, you've like maxed out all your connections and all that stuff, right? Like, so talk.
Well, I follow everyone back, right? And here's the little thing: like, I'm very serious about my goals. A lot of people get mad at me because I delete people on a daily basis. But if you go join the serviceprofessionalsnetwork.com and you put your LinkedIn link on your profile, I'm gonna go delete somebody, and I'm gonna go make room for you in my first degree network because that's why I'm here at business. You know what I mean? Look. And I don't want to go on too much, but you touched on a topic about why people treat each other the way they do despite disagreeing on the Service Professionals Network. It's because they follow the golden rule. You can follow the golden rule and not agree with everybody. Like, it's okay to disagree, just not to be disagreeable. So
no, I love that. I absolutely appreciate it. I love it. And so everyone that like joined on, like I feel really bad right now. I'm trying to look down here and like I don't know why. I just cannot seem to reply back to everyone.
I'm going to go back
really
to the comments. I'm going to try to respond to everybody, and I will try my best to visit their profiles. And I appreciate all the love and support. But like the cold hard reality is, if we stop to do the comments between the two of us, we'll never get a word out. And you know what I mean? So
well, it's a multitasking that we all know is very difficult to do, which is why I was like telling everyone this is a vanity project and it's just me doing it. But no, but I do like that. I do like what you're doing with SPN. It's unique. You're definitely the face of things. I think you're like the more human side. Like I said, the humanity into social media for business type conversations. LinkedIn to me is it's an amorphous being, right? Whereas you're saying, look, I'm the founder and I'm like the hustler of it, if you will. And eventually, of course, you're like the Tom, you're the Tom.
I'll be on until the day I die. Like I'll never like take a day off, But you know what's funny about the Tom, right? You know how he was automatically everybody's friend?
Yeah.
So you're a featured member, right? So all their featured members, like, do you know about the auto friend thing?
No, but I need to have you back. We could do a walkthrough of this because I am. Hey, full disclosure, I'm pretty new to SPN too.
We're gonna turn the auto friend thing back on. So all their featured members, there's like 600 of them, but only 400 show up on the front end right now. They're gonna be your friend when you sign up. So you automatically, when you sign up, you'll have 400 or 500 friends, and they're all vetted people that I know, people that I think are good people, right? So I'm not signing you up with 500 jerks. You know what I mean? Because like the whole idea why people get on LinkedIn or anywhere else is to be seen, right?
Yeah.
So if you can join my platform and you got access to a whole bunch of people that are helpful everywhere, I figured it just makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then you have the ability to drop them too if you don't like them, or just ignore them. That's the other key critical thing. You can block them if you want to. So no, I think everyone should.
I think we had our first block the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we had the first. Some guy brought up the George Floyd thing, and somebody else blocked him. I was like, oh. Somebody asked me, like, "Are you going to delete that?" I'm like, "No, it's great. Let them disagree. I mean, it's freedom of speech."
Well, we're all adults here, right? I mean, I think, like I said, once it starts denigrating down to like, attacks, personal attacks, that's when you're like, "Hey guys, slow your roll here. This is still professional." Like,
I'm still going to act like I didn't see it, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
To me, it's if you're going to be
you can report,
like
you can block people. We're adults, man. Like the way I look at whether you're on LinkedIn, your Instagram, or Service Professionals Network, right? Anytime you get on social media, you're getting on the subway. And some people get out and they have their money hanging out of their pocket, their boobies hanging out, or you know what I mean? But when I get on the train, I'm prepared to ride on that train. I'm going to have my hands up, my wits about me, and I'm going to enjoy the ride.
That's too funny. I love it. I love it. Okay. So Mike, I just want to say thank you very much for
I had so much
joining.
fun.
I hope it's so funny because like whenever you and I are like chatting, like despite your persona at times, you are very serious and you're very thoughtful. Your mouth just
And
blows up, which is fine because I do that too. I like
and the
vomit
mouth,
words
yeah.
to myself, but it is so funny. Every time I talk to you, there's always nuggets of wisdom there. And I hope you don't diminish your value in that context. Because I know I
Appreciate
caught you a couple times saying, "Oh, I'm dumb" or "I'm offensive," blah blah blah. Like
it.
you're
You
so
know,
much more valuable. I know you're trying to like, not be so egocentric, but the truth
I gotta
is
work on the self-talk just like we all do.
exactly. And
Oh,
dang nabbit, I don't know why we
we gotta
don't
do
do that
this
with
on the next one.
personal.
You gotta come on one of our shows. I mean, like,
Hey,
you're so like, oh, I'm so sorry about stealing your thunder. I love it. I love the
well,
thunder you
it's
bring.
not stealing thunder, it's being respectful when you're on like someone else's show.
Well,
But
I
on
just
that note, I do have to do a promo and I do have to bounce here, but I do want to promote this real quick here is one of our clients. So everyone that's interested, if you want a free ice shaker. So if you guys are familiar with
oh,
Shark Tank, so the Gronkowski brothers, Gronkowski,
yeah.
whatever, Patriots and all the
I
other
heard this is a
brothers.
really good thing. I heard this is a really good shaker.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really nice. They're not messing around.
Wait,
So one of the clients that I produce podcasts for, the DLC Drop, John Davidson, he actually got sponsorship with Ice Shaker. And so if anyone that wants to get a free Ice Shaker of the DLC Drop podcast branded, listen to the Chris Gronkowski episode. It's out today, this morning. So the DLC Drop podcast. Share a post of your favorite story or insight from the episode. So they talk about a lot of different things, which is really kind of cool.
can you
Especially
drop
for
the
those
link
that
in
have
the
always
comments
thought that
later?
Shark Tank is full of crap. It's actually they're pretty thoughtful. And of course, tag 3 friends that you think that will inspire or be inspired. I know SPN's all good about that, because we all have stories to share. And I always say this, everyone has a story, share it. And then of course, tag the post with hashtag DLC Shaker, whether it's on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever your platform of
SPN.
choice. SPN, of course,
Yeah.
damn straight. So they will be gathering all that intel and data, and they will announce the winner on Monday, February 21st. You guys check it out. Chris Gronkowski is really cool. He's actually locally based here, and so I would say get
Another
to
reason to
know
come down to
him
the
and his company. It's really cool. I mean, Mike, it's
You
I
know,
love the
you gotta
fact.
love the internet, man. It just brings everybody together. You know, I mean, it really does. You know, it
It,
used to be if you knew 7 people, you know everybody in the world. Now, if you have 7 connections, you know everybody.
well, I think we're all human, like you said, we're all chasing the cheese. But you know what I really love about the internet though is
Huh.
that you have accessibility to people that you never thought you could before. Like, and you
People
just
don't
reach
realize
out.
you can open any door you want to with the right knock. You know.
Absolutely. Oh my God. I'm so overtime, like super overtime. And I'm
Bye.
working my own next meeting.
Bye.
Mike O'Connor, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, thank you. That's another episode of the Mike is Listening. See you next week.